Hello, everyone. Hope you're having a fantastic day. My name is Kmart, and I want to talk about some basketball. And today, we are going to be talking about the Denver Nuggets and the current situation they face in their playoff series against the Timberwolves. Uh, what's gone wrong for them, and how they can potentially turn things around here, even this early into the series. So, let's just sort of jump directly into it. If you don't know, the Nuggets dropped their first two games at home in their second round series against Minnesota. So they now head to Minnesota down 0-2 in this best of seven series. So the first question is, how has this happened, right? The Nuggets are the defending champions. They handled the Lakers pretty easily. What's gone wrong here against the Timberwolves? First and foremost, for the Nuggets, they don't really have any answer immediately for Anthony Edwards. He scored 70 points through the first two games of this series. He is shooting just over 60% from the field as well. And Edwards is getting really a lot of his points on the interior and from the mid-range, right? Of his 70 points scored so far, only 12 of them have been from threes. So he's really been putting a strain on the Nuggets defense, and obviously if you score 70 points in two games, you can tell Denver is struggling to contain him. On the other side of things, you look at Jokic for the Nuggets, and he is getting ever so slightly slowed down, or harassed, I suppose we should say. His stats are still pretty impressive, right? He's at or close to at least 20 points per game. The rebounds and the assists still look good, but that trio down low of Rudy Gobert, Karl Anthony Towns, and Naz Reid sort of cycling in and out has made things difficult for Jokic. I don't want to say that they're shutting him down, because they're obviously not, but they're making him work just that little bit more for everything that he's getting statistically. And obviously I highlight the big men, but the defense in general for the Timberwolves has been exceptional, right? The guards, guys like Conley, guys like Alexander Walker, McDaniels, they have all played excellent defense to this point as well, which leads sort of into the final big issue here for the Nuggets, which is that Jokic is not getting any help. No player other than Jokic is averaging 15 points through the first two games of this series. He's doing all right, but the supporting cast has really dropped off. First and foremost among that supporting cast is Jamal Murray. He's been unbelievably cold through these first two games, shooting just 28.1% from the field and 25% from three. And it's not just the scoring that's gone down for him. He's also averaging just 3 assists per game in this series, compared to over twice that, 7.2 assists per game in round one against the Lakers. So Murray, not really there as a scorer or a playmaker. Meanwhile, some of the guys that the Nuggets have relied upon to be strong outside shooters, Michael Porter Jr. and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, are both down in terms of their shooting percentages. Not by crazy amounts. Porter Jr. is shooting 35.7%, KCP 33.3%, but you need to bear in mind both of those guys in the regular season were around or over 40% from three. So they're not shooting terribly, but they are significantly lower than where the Nuggets usually expect them to be. So Jokic is having a harder time against Timberwolves defense. His supporting cast is a little bit less consistent, and his sort of running mate and other star player in Murray is just missing in action at this point through two games. So if you're the Nuggets, how do you fix this? How do you potentially turn this around and go to Minnesota and extend this series? Obviously, there's no foolproof solution. Otherwise, I would be currently employed by the Denver Nuggets. But there's a couple of ideas, things that couldn't hurt for the Nuggets to address. Number one, for Jokic, he just needs to keep going. He needs to keep doing what he's doing. I've heard some rumblings from people after those first 2 games that he needed to change things up or demand the ball more touches, more shots, be more aggressive, things of that nature. I think that's the wrong way to go about this here, because the whole point right now is that the Timberwolves defense has been keyed in on making life as difficult for Jokic as possible, and they've slowed him down while the supporting cast has basically been shut out entirely. If the Nuggets decide to go all in and double down on Jokic and basically ignore a struggling supporting cast, then that means that the Timberwolves defense is free to do the same. Their defense will effectively solely focus on stopping Jokic and ignore the rest of Denver's players on the offensive end, because Denver will be ignoring those same players. So I think Jokic just has to keep doing what he's doing. Obviously, he scored fewer than 20 points in game 2, and that has some people concerned, but I don't think that they should overreact on that front, at least, because there's other parts of their game that really do need to be addressed, which brings us to point number 2, Jamal Murray. He's got to get something going for himself here if he isn't outright suspended here. So if you've been looking at some of the news from game 2 other than the score, Jamal Murray might face disciplinary action. He threw a heat pad, one of those sort of wraparound heat pads with the Velcro, from the bench onto the floor during active play. So he might face disciplinary action for that and be unavailable for 1 or more games. Not really sure. At time of recording, there's been no announcement of any disciplinary action there, but they need Murray. Jokic is the headliner, but this Denver Nuggets team is sort of a 1-2 punch between him and Jamal Murray. So if half of a 1-2 punch isn't there, then you don't really have much to work with. So much of Denver's offense goes through Murray, either directly from his scoring and playmaking or indirectly from teams being unable to focus exclusively on Jokic, because Murray represents a sizable threat as well. If he isn't a threat, then the defense can kind of ignore it. So if he's not suspended, the Nuggets need him to play better. Third point for Denver here, it sounds a lot simpler than it is, but they need to stop falling behind in the early stages. Right, Denver has trailed at the end of the first quarter in 5 of their 7 playoff games so far. They've trailed at halftime in 6 of those 7 games. And yes, the majority of those games were against the Lakers, and the Nuggets did win the majority of those games. But that is not proof that the Nuggets are, invincible. Coming out slow and playing catch up in the hopes that you either win the second half dramatically or you lose the game entirely is not something that seems viable in the long term. And now we're kind of starting to see that. Yeah, the Lakers lost their composure and blew those leads multiple times, but a team like the Timberwolves is probably not going to make similar mistakes. So, I mean, it sounds simple, right? Hey, don't fall behind in the first 2 quarters. It's not as easy as that, but it really is a trend that the Nuggets can't ignore anymore. Speaking of potential trends they can't ignore, they cannot lose the battle inside here. The Nuggets are minus 28 in terms of points in the paint through the first 2 games. They're at least tied in rebounding. So in terms of boards, they're still fighting at a standstill, but points is a bit of a different story. Now, there's a bit of a caveat here, right? The Nuggets don't want to lose the battle inside. If you are going to lose that battle, then you need to make up for it by dominating from the outside. You need your 3-point shooters shooting at such a high clip that you can make up for the lack of paint points. Obviously, that has not happened for Denver, right? The team is shooting 36.1% from 3, so you're not dominating from outside and you're not winning in terms of points in the paint. That's not really a recipe for winning too many games here. So the Nuggets are basically facing some pretty sizable issues here, and things could get even worse for them if Murray faces any kind of disciplinary action moving forward. If he is suspended, this one's pretty much over. The Timberwolves will take this in 4 or 5 at the most. If he's not suspended, I still believe the Nuggets can turn this around, right? They've got that championship pedigree. Yes, they played from a position of strength through most of that championship run and most of their first round series, but I think that they still have the grit and the focus to turn this around. They just need to get themselves into the right position and the right sort of style of play, and they need everyone other than Jokic to get back to the production they had in the first round. Not sure if they can do that or not, but they at least have the potential to, again, so long as Murray doesn't end up getting suspended for game 3 or beyond. But that's all I got, really. It all kind of hinges on any sort of announcement of whether Murray's going to face any sort of suspension or not. But feel free to let me know what you think. Are you surprised that the Nuggets dropped these first 2 games at home? Do you believe that they are capable of mounting that comeback? Do you think at this point that Murray will be suspended or not? I suppose that answer really kind of does influence whether you think the Nuggets can mount the comeback or not. But either way, please feel free to let me know what you think. But other than that, thank you all so much for watching, and I will talk to you later.